So, today we are going to talk about making mistakes and a little piece of humble pie. Actually, probably the whole pie. So, my whole life, I have really not liked making mistakes. There's a whole big web of stuff that's attached to that, but a big part of it was that I didn't like letting people down and I didn't like disappointing people and I wanted to be perfect. So when you have those two ingredients in your life recipe, making mistakes just doesn't really fit or go with the recipe, right? Like a mistake in that kind of recipe would ruin the whole thing. So I've lived my life being very aware and very conscious and very proactive and very a lot of things, basically so that I can avoid making mistakes that I could avoid. So there's always going to be mistakes where you just didn't see it coming, it came out of left field, you had no idea that it was going to happen, or you just had no forewarning, right? So those mistakes, like, it's impossible to avoid those. But all of the mistakes where you could have avoided them, those are the ones that I very much have whew, really, really tried really hard to avoid at all cost. So part of that recipe, it's interesting, I'm talking about a recipe and then later I'm going to tell you about humble pie. So this is all building up to make my humble pie. So with this recipe of not making mistakes and having those ingredients, I have been very hard and harsh and not really open to understanding or being compassionate when other people in my life have made mistakes. I'm kind of a hard ass, and you know, I make sure to tell people what they could have done, or what are we going to learn from this, or how can we not do this again, and that, okay, you made the mistake, but let's learn from it, and just, a lot of, just kind of hard ass stuff, right? Rather than just being in the moment and realizing that, hey, this is a learning opportunity for me and for the person, or for the person, or for a whole bunch of people. So let's just be a little bit gentle and a little bit kind and not lose our shit just because a mistake was made. So my husband and my kids have been very obliging with trying to be proactive, think ahead, look at the scenario, and not make mistakes because they know that that's a bit of an issue for me. So, ironically enough, the world has ways of teaching us what we need to learn and what's out of balance with us. And my daughter is it's the end of the season, but it's a tournament. It's a ringette tournament right now. And she's having so much fun and she absolutely loves it. And there's only 6 games in the whole tournament, and it's her ringette season is done, and like for months now until it gets going again in the fall, but that's like months away. So I've really been enjoying, her going to these games and having fun, and just like it's just a fun tournament and she's loving it. So she had a game yesterday and the day before. So she had a game the day before, and then she had a game yesterday, and it's on the weekend. So yesterday in my world was Sunday. I'm not sure when you'll be watching this, but for me, yesterday was Sunday. So she already had a game on Saturday, loved it, had a blast, and it's like, hey, see you tomorrow. Yeah, see you tomorrow. Okay, bye. And so excited. And we were at home all day on Sunday just doing housework and different things, and okay, Janae, it's time to get ready for your game. And it was over a half an hour drive away. And she had to be there at least 45 minutes early. So needless to say, we left in plenty of time, and we got to the rink and realized that her game had started an hour before that. And just as we were frantically getting her dressed to try to get her a couple shifts on the ice before the game ended, we heard them having 3 cheers, signaling that the game was over. And I was so emotional about it. Like, not many people see a parent bawling in the rink for any reason, let alone why I was bawling in the rink. But I was bawling in the rink because I made such a big mistake for no good reason, and I felt horrible. She missed her game, and it was all my fault. Like, it was all on me. And no one else had anything to do with it. I had no one else to blame. I had no other fingers to point. And everything was right on me. And I felt so bad that she missed it. I wasn't mad at myself. I was just so sad that my mistake made her miss her game. So I was having like a big moment, like major mummy guilt. And the interesting thing about this, where I ate the whole humble pie, was that she's 10. And she was so much more considerate and compassionate and kind and caring about my mistake than I probably have ever been for her mistakes, or my son's mistakes, or my husband's mistakes, or even most of my other mistakes. So that also made me bawl. Because it almost would have been better had she been pissy and mad and mad at me than how she did react, because then at least she would have reacted to me in the same way that I always react when people make mistakes. So not only did I have a complete moment of, wow, I really, really screwed this up for my daughter, I also had this moment of, wow, she's 10 and she is treating me better for my huge mistake that directly affected her than I am with my mistakes and other people's mistakes. So I ate the whole humble pie, all of it, and I have this huge appreciation and realization, which, as you can probably tell, I'm still like processing all of it, but it's like my whole life of reacting to mistakes has just, I'm throwing it out the window, because it's not how it should be, and it's not how to be a loving and compassionate and kind parent, friend, wife, family member, whatever. So I just want you to ponder that for a moment. I'm gonna bet that not everybody handles mistakes in the same way that I do. But maybe you know someone that does, and maybe you know times that you have reacted to mistakes, whether it's your own mistakes or someone else's, that has been like over the top, or it's been harsh, or like not compassionate, not understanding. And I just want to share this story with you today to help you see that it's okay to make mistakes, and we all make mistakes. And yeah, sometimes it's a pain in the ass, and sometimes it messes things up, and sometimes it's not how we want things to be. But every mistake we make, we are meant to learn from. And every mistake someone else makes is an opportunity for us to help them learn and help them grow, but also to be a little bit compassionate and a little bit understanding, and not make them feel horrible when they're already feeling bad. Like, oh my word, you have no idea how bad I felt for my mistake. And to think that, like, had she treated me like how I treat other people when they make mistakes, is like grind it in and rub it in and point it out and like big billboard of this is what you did and I'm gonna remind you of it. And like, okay, I probably don't do that every time, but like, I'm just being honest. I haven't been that nice when people make mistakes. Just to think about that for a minute and realize how much worse it makes everybody feel, and how much worse you make yourself feel when you are harsh and mean and rude and whatever else, like snippy or kind of grouchy about the mistake. So mistakes where people refuse to see that they've made a mistake, or where they refuse to see how their actions caused something, is a totally different story for a different ball game for a different day. But when you know you've made a mistake, or when someone else knows they've made a mistake and they're aware of it, just understand that they didn't mean it. And shit happens sometimes, and you know, it just, I will never forget how my daughter treated me in that moment. I told myself I wasn't gonna bawl when I told you guys this story today, but whatever, here it is. So but I will never forget how my daughter treated me in that moment, that I made a huge mistake that totally affected her. And I am in this process of like purging everything and life hacking everything within me. Now that I have this huge awareness, I will be life hacking the heck out of myself to clear out like the patterns and the habits and the triggers and the emotions and all that past web that I had mentioned that I have about, like, you know, not wanting to disappoint other people and not wanting to let people down, and like the whole like strive to be error free or perfect, that type of thing. I'm just going to be purging the heck out of all of that. So I just really wanted to share this with you today while it was still very real for me, and not wait like a month before I totally processed it all and like then could come to you and be like, oh, hey, guess what I learned? I just wanted to be real with you in this moment with whatever came to me and however I was when I shared this with you, because it's real. It happened yesterday, and it knocked me on my ass, and then I ate a whole humble pie. So yeah, because really that's what life is all about, right? In the moment and being real, and just let's go with the flow and learn together. So I'd like to just do like a super quick mini meditation, just to kind of, again, help build awareness on what about mistakes, you know, do you have going on. So go ahead and take a couple deep breaths and just kind of like on the exhale, just let go. Because if my story kind of opened up anything for you or just kind of resonated with you, your exhale will definitely help you release just anything that has kind of come to the surface with this for you. So a couple nice deep breaths. Close your eyes and just allow me to kind of guide you and help you build some awareness as to the concept of mistakes and maybe a little bit of humble pie. Or maybe we'll bring in a little humble pie in your life. Okay? So remember, go with the first thing that comes. Don't overthink. Don't think. Just flow and go with the first thing that comes. Have I overreacted to other people's mistakes in the past? Have I overreacted to my own mistakes in the past? Am I still overreacting to mistakes, either that other people are making or that I am making? Am I still overreacting? What do I believe about mistakes? So what are my beliefs about mistakes? Like for me, it was that they let people down, they disappoint people. It means, you're not doing a good enough job, you're not perfect. Those are mine. What are yours? What are your beliefs about mistakes? What would my life look like, and how could I imagine myself interacting with other people or responding or reacting to other people and to myself if I no longer was imbalanced and overreacting and had some hang-ups with mistakes? So just allow yourself to imagine what that would be like to be balanced and, be gentle and kind and understanding and whatever else your version or your impression of, being balanced, dealing with mistakes in a balanced way. Whatever that looks like, whatever that feels like. Now, the other part is, like, I don't want to go over the top and be like, oh, it's okay, it's not your fault, it's not, and like take the blame, take the ownership away from the person that made the mistake. No, that's too far, because then nobody owns up to the mistakes and nobody learns anything, and it's all just pass the buck and pass the buck some more, and all of a sudden there's this big disaster and nobody's willing to acknowledge it or own up to it because there's been a whole bunch of little disasters that have been brushed off and brushed aside. So it's not about becoming the polar opposite. It's about finding balance and knowing that mistakes are made by people who are meant to own up to them and acknowledge them and admit it was a mistake and not just try to blame it on somebody else or pretend it didn't happen. But once you or the other person has owned up to it and acknowledged it and, admitted that, yeah, that was a mistake, like I messed up, or I didn't do what I was supposed to do, or I didn't do a good enough job, or whatever it is, it's how we react to that that creates the balance. But it's really funny because I believe that so many people don't take ownership and don't own up and don't want to acknowledge mistakes because of how beasts like me react when someone does make a mistake. It's like the opposite of what you want. So if we as individuals could start shifting our reactions to mistakes, we would probably have a lot more people willing to own up to them and acknowledge them and admit them and then learn from them. If we weren't biting their heads off and making them feel like poop and, you know, rubbing it in and showing them how badly they screwed up and how much better you would have done it or whatever, or how much better you did it the day before. So just be aware of that as well as you're getting a sense of like what balance would feel like with mistakes. So like I say, it's not about going to the opposite end of the spectrum and letting it all go and not caring at all. No, there's ownership, there's acknowledgement, but it's the reactions themselves that can find some balance. All right, so take a couple deep breaths, and that is that's my story for you today. And who knows what will happen between now and the next story that I have to share, but there's never a dull moment when you're living life, that's for sure. So, sending you a hug, and I hope you have a most excellent rest of your day. Bye for now.